Hi there. Welcome to the Financial Advantage. We are powered by the Wells Funding Group. This is Dennis Wells. I am super excited today to be interviewing Berry McCracken, who's a realtor out of the Chicagoland area with Coldwell Banker. Berry, thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dennis.
Very good. So how did you get involved in real estate?
Well, my dad was in real estate for years, so he kind of got me involved in it. He was looking at expanding an office, and he had somebody there, but he was like 80 years old at the time. So, uh,
Wow.
yeah, at that time, if you had more than one office, you had to have one broker per office. So he wanted to have somebody else that was a little bit younger involved. So I ended up getting my license, not really thinking that I'd be involved in real estate, but that's it ended up rolling and just took it from there. 38 years later, I'm still here.
Wow. Wow. So that's amazing. And yeah, having a family dynamic to the relationship of, with real estate, I'm sure made a big difference as you were getting started.
Yeah, it was a big help, and he was in the business. I mean, when he retired, was about 40 years, so he'd been doing it for a while. So yeah, it helped out quite a bit. He had a good name established in the community, and that helped out immensely.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Because, whether you're real estate or lending, a lot of times it is your reputation that you're building every single time you get an opportunity to help somebody.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. So obviously 38 years, you've seen a lot of changes. What are some of the major changes that you've seen over the course of your career?
Well, probably buyer agency. I mean, back when we were sub agents, so the seller to buyer agency. Um, a big change when in 2006 and 2008 when the big debacle, as I call it.
Yeah.
And then just lately is a kind of a big change for us, and a big change for a lot of people too. A lot of our clients, to know that they got to sign something before we can go out and look at homes, and they just don't understand that sometimes too.
Yeah, and I think that's, one of the things that we're trying to do as well is to kind of educate people that, they're instead of, kind of like the hidden charge within the transaction that, there are, you know, probably right infinite ways to pay the buyer broker compensation, but, really about four or five. And, you know, part of what you're paying your agent for is their skill in negotiation, and we still see a lot of sellers that are willing to pay the buyer's agent, but there's options with the loan. There's options with if you can pay that on your own. Maybe you can drive a little bit of a better purchase price. There's just a lot of options.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. And we'll figure out different options along the way, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think part of it is just the unknown. I think sometimes is the challenge for people.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
So, but it still doesn't dampen the importance of owning a house. What are some things, as a realtor, when you're talking with someone about the value of home ownership, what are some things that you're pointing them towards?
Well, I try to point out about 40 times for net worth for a homeowner versus a renter, and then a lot of times, show them what the actual math is and everything like that too, um, and let them know some of that is just psychological, too,
Hmm.
more than just financial. And in other words, um, if the water heater goes out, you are the landlord.
Right.
You don't have anybody to call. It's you that's responsible. So you got to have some kind of nest egg set aside for that if that happens, or the roof or the furnace or whatever it might be, so that if something goes bad, you've got something to tap into. May not be the whole amount of money you need, but now you're starting to think differently about, um, well, if something goes wrong, what do I do? I better save money here. I better save money there. Better save money on my coffee. Uh, you know, you're going to think about things just a little bit differently. Maybe you get a little bit different job, get a little bit more pay, whatever it might be. Just think about things differently. So it's as much psychological as it is, really financial. Because some of the people that make money, they don't, they're not as good about saving money sometimes.
Yes, because it seems you can always spend as much as you make or more, even, because you hear of, sports figures that have made incredible amount of money, but, like the number of NFL players that end up going bankrupt after they get out of, playing football. I mean, obviously there are a lot of them that do very well. But if you're not careful, it doesn't matter so much how much you make. If you're not setting some aside or investing it, you can end up in trouble down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and
Uh,
people hit the lottery too.
yep, exactly. Exactly. I think of the that book, kind of the classic Richest Man in Babylon, where, it talks about if you can own your house, so you're essentially paying yourself, to live where you're living. And, that's a, really it's probably the biggest pillar in wealth creation. But like you said, you do have to be, wise about it and realize that, you do need to have that emergency fund so that you don't get into a bind.
Yeah, yeah, and you don't want to rush into making a decision, but you don't want to lag, either. You got to make a wise decision too. But yeah, but 40 times, I mean, that's a huge difference. It's not like double. I mean, 40 times, that's huge
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, because I mean it's like credit card interest. You never get ahead when you're paying credit card interest. You never get ahead when you're paying rent, because at the end of the day, you just purchase a consumable is really what you've done.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So, well, cool. Well, so wealth creation, what are some other things that you see as a value for people in purchasing and owning real estate?
Well, they can take something that really wasn't that nice before, and create a lot of value to it. Not necessarily flipping a house, but maybe do a slow flip. Maybe you live there 5-10 years and then sell it, and make some updates to the kitchen, do something with the flooring, do some repainting, finish the basement, that kind of thing, and sell it for quite a bit more money and make some money doing that. And maybe you do it again. And people used to do that again and again and again, but I don't see that as much happening, as much as we used to. But still, if you're there 40 years, you're creating a lot of value, hopefully.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we'll go on the record, say we're not, CPAs or, licensed financial advisors here, but I do know, at least at the time of this recording, that if you've lived in your primary residence for 2 of the last 5 years and and you sell it, whatever your capital gains on that sale, up to 250,000 for a single person, 500,000 for a married couple, that's exempt from capital gains tax. So that can be a huge, like you're saying, you buy something small you can afford, do some updates and keep it maintained, keep it looking nice. And then, when you go to sell that, now you have a nest egg to put down on, your next house to, so you're not borrowing as much, that payment is more affordable, and then you can just keep rolling that.
Yeah, yeah. until you got it paid off, and now you don't have a payment. Yeah, now you're doing a lot better because now you can pay yourself off in a different way.
Yeah.
Maybe you pay yourself by putting some money, more money into retirement. That too. But just having the feeling of accomplishment, yeah, having
Yeah.
the feeling of um, you know, you've done something, and now you don't have that obligation of having to make a payment, except for your taxes and insurance, of course.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think about it all the time, like, what it would, and people might be surprised, a mortgage guys thinking this way, but, you know, my goal for our clients is to be their professional debt manager, so that, they might have a financial planner or a CPA working on the asset side of their lives, but a lot of time, no one's working on that liability. And
yeah,
I feel like my job is to come alongside people, help them, create cash flow, help them reduce the cost of borrowing over time, so that eventually they don't need me anymore. Like they've got that house free and clear, or the house free and clear, maybe some investment properties that are giving them passive income. And nothing I would love better than to see all of my clients, at their golden years, paid off house, millions of dollars in the bank, where they can, they don't have to worry about, are they going to be able to make their budget or not?
yeah, yeah. And some you know income property is a nice mixture to have in with your investments also. Sometimes sometimes it's nice to have that, sometimes it's not, because the personalities just don't make sense, and that's fine. But at the same time, it's kind of nice to have that, have someone else, paying the payment for you, well, or a big portion of it at least. You still have to do, again, the tax and insurance, and if there's any homeowners association or condominium association or something like that. But still, it's a big part of it's taken care of. What a wonderful world that is, for people to have someone else taking care of uh, their retirement for them.
Yeah, right. And then they're still taking advantage of the appreciation gain that the houses go up in value by and large every year. And every time you make your payment, you owe a little bit less on there. And there are good reasons to rent. There for seasons. If someone is just getting started, or if they don't know they're going to stay in the area for, a long enough amount of time for it to make sense. Because we've been, I think, kind of blessed over the last couple of years with some of the appreciation. I've seen some people get away with buying a house and selling it like 9 months later, and at least breaking even. But normally that's not how it works. So but if you're going to be staying in the area, you have a stable job, you're you can buy something that is fairly equivalent to what you're paying in rent. I always encourage people to buy, even if you only stay in there 3 or 4 years. It can be amazing the difference that can make.
Yeah, and to have the freedom too to do what you want to do, even
Hmm.
if you lose a little bit of money when you sell. Um, maybe maybe you buy it for 200 and you sell it for 210, but maybe you got to come up with $2,000 at the end or something like that. Now you paint the dining room the color that you want to do it. You put down the carpeting that you want to put down, things like that. If you're renting, you don't have that flexibility.
Right. Right. And if you want to have a pet, or you want to put a fire pit in the backyard, or whatever you're wanting to do, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that $2,000 or 5,000 or 1,500 or whatever you might end up, losing. It just might be worth it in the long run, because you're um, the freedom. The freedom is a really, really good thing to have.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, talking about improving houses, what are, as a realtor, I'm sure you get people ask you all the time, what are some things that I could be doing to my house to maybe increase the value or increase the resale value of it? What are things that you would generally recommend in those regards?
I think sometimes it's small things, you always hear about the kitchen and bathroom and landscaping and everything. And I think those are, big deals. I was reading somewhere where I think it's like I can't remember what the return was, but it was over 100%, like 150% return or something like that for garage doors. Yeah, I was like,
Wow.
yeah, exactly. I was
I would have never thought about that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think they said the prior year it was like 90% or something like that. It was it wasn't like 100% return, but now it's over 100% return. I was like, wow, that's really a good thing. And I think there's the front door is a big return.
Mhm.
So some of the things that aren't cheap but aren't really expensive either are really good investments to do. Sometimes just switching out some the hardware in the kitchen might be a really good, investment. Painting the cabinets or getting new cabinet fronts rather than getting new cabinets. It's just some things that you don't really necessarily think about. You can update small things and make it look fresh and new.
Yeah, that's a great point. Because a lot of times, sometimes people, if they're looking at a house, they can't see past, maybe the hardware on the kitchen, drawers or cabinets seem a little dated, or the color doesn't seem right, and you're like, but there's not the knobs are not as cheap as they used to be, right? But I mean, they're still not super expensive, and paint has always been relatively cheap. So
Yeah, yeah. One of the things I am trying to do with my clients now is give them a discount, both buyers and sellers, but gives them a discount at a local store for, and I just started this for blinds, so window treatments basically, but blinds, and then also 40% discount for some paint, and
yep,
then a discount for flooring, also, because a lot of times if you're selling, those are things that you're going to want to update for when people are wanting to come in.
yep.
That can be a huge, thing. And if you're saving 20 to 40% on that, why not, why not do that and freshen it up? Um, so, I think that can be, and it's, and buying too. A lot of the times, what are you going to do? You're going to freshen it up, especially if it's, I work a lot with seniors, people that are retiring or have, sometimes they were retired for quite a while, but they're in their same house. Um, and they might be on a budget and they might not have been afforded a lot of extra money to put in, new cabinets or redo a bathroom or something like
Hmm.
that. So it's a little dated. Young people come in with new vision, new energy, everything like that. They may not have a ton of money, but if they got a little bit of extra money from the paint discount, then they can put it into new flooring or something too. The savings that they had, put it into new flooring, also, and double up. And that can really be a big help. And the sellers, if they're having to do that, and they go, well, I really want to freshen it up and make it look, and I want to sell for top dollar, for my kids and my family and themselves also. Um, and estates, too. It helps out
Hmm.
estates too, because it sells not only um, for more money, but also quicker. And that's sometimes with estates, because I've worked with seniors and estates for a long, long, long time. Um, yeah. And that's can be as big of a factor as the money itself, the time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, and it brings up a great question or a great point on, what are some benefits that you're seeing, senior citizens, that you're helping accomplish, with the sale of their house, or, potentially buying a new one.
Some of them, I had one in Bradley, where they moved down out of state with their, one of their daughters.
Hmm.
Uh, daughters are out of state. But they're moving into, I think it was the basement that they'd finished off and everything. But they're able to, the family unit is a little more intact rather than them having to travel a state away or 6 hours away or whatever it might be, or the kids come up there, whatever. They don't have to do that now, so that can be a big factor. Improvement in weather can be a big factor.
Yeah, you're right.
To see your Florida or Arizona, or wherever you're moving to. I had one person move to Minnesota, but that was probably not improvement in weather, but again, close to family.
Yeah, yeah,
A lot of times it's not just, weather, but family.
yeah. Heard the story about the family that moved south, and the kids were asking, well, how do we come down here? Why did we come down here? And Dad's like, well, I tied a snow shovel on the top of the car and I drove south until someone said, hey, what's that thing? And I said, we've gone far enough.
Good story.
So I don't know if that's exactly how it happened or not, but for sure, sometimes getting out of the snow, um, you know, you know, or moving to the area where you do get the four seasons, and you can appreciate the summer maybe a little bit more,
Yeah.
when you've dealt with some winter, but also getting to the point where you know, you know, obviously some people it's not good for them to fall, so being in a place that you're not dealing with the snow and ice for sure.
Yeah. 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 True. Yeah. Good point.
Well, after 38 years, what advice would you give to someone who's maybe a new real estate agent or someone thinking about getting into the business for the first time?
Have some kind of either have maybe your spouse that's has a halfway decent job, because if the market is a little bit tough, you have something to back you up, or
Hmm.
out or something like that. Have a modest enough home so you don't have to worry about the payments and everything like that when if the times get tough or something, because you just have ups and downs basically. There's times you're doing very very well, but there's times that you have to really work at it and everything. So I remember in the early '80s in Kankakee, there were a lot of people that were moving, south, moving to Arizona and places like that because they were running offices and stuff, and they just weren't able to run the offices anymore because the homes just weren't,
Hmm.
selling. Um, so it's just tough. But try to specialize, in something if you can. To try to not necessarily specialize too much, because if that market, try to have a backup plan, too,
Hmm.
because like I'm saying, I'm trying to work with seniors right now. Well, I think there's a lot of people that are doing that, or my age group, they're thinking about their parents and their parents moving or getting into a, assisted living or something like that. But if that's not the wave of the future, if there's a lot of first time buyers out there, and that's the night the seniors, you attract first time buyers a lot of times too. But if you got to figure out something else, maybe it's high end properties, maybe it's
Hmm.
condo buildings up in Chicago, or maybe you could take one or two or three buildings, in a development or something, rather than the whole, city. Um, Specialize in that. I get to know the people there, whatever it might be, waterfront property, um, whatever it might be, specialize in that, but have a backup plan though too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think financial responsibility is huge. Finding an area of real estate that really gets you excited, that you're able to really learn a lot about and communicate that. to others. And, obviously, hopefully it's something that, there's a niche that a lot of other people are interested in as well.
Yeah. Yeah, financial responsibility. I wouldn't have had to go through all of that if I would have known those 2 words right offhand.
Both of us, right, brother?
Yeah.
But I don't know. For me, it seems like, the lessons I've learned best, I've learned the hard way. I'd like to be the guy that learns through other people's mistakes, but that's not always the case.
No.
Oh, well, Barry, thank you so much for being with us here today. It's been a great privilege to get to spend some time with you here. And I know that that a lot of people are going to find all of this valuable. I'm sure there's a lot of people that would love to get in contact with you. What's the best way for them to reach out?
Probably either phone or text, 815-954-7761. And I try to answer my phone, um, uh, almost, I answer it almost every time, not all, every time. If I'm on the phone or I'm on a podcast, I'm just joking. Then I don't answer the phone, but otherwise I try to answer it all the time.
I love it. Well, Barry, thank you so much. And I want to thank everybody for listening to the podcast here today. We'd love for you to like and subscribe on whatever channel that you're listening to this on. And of course, we'd love for you to share this with other people, whether they're in real estate, interested in real estate, or interested in growing wealth through real estate. We'd love to have you share that. We are powered by the Wells Funding Group. You can reach the team and I at 219-230-8400. Barry, thank you again so much for being with us here today.
Thanks, Dennis. My pleasure, really. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Have a great day.
You too.